All right, so I'll call the meeting to order. First thing is approval of minutes, August 13th. Is there a motion to approve?
Yes, I move to approve.
They're not done yet.
I
Oh.
second.
I'm still writing them.
Okay.
Oh, I thought I saw that.
We will delay the vote.
John, your minutes are always so meticulous.
We agree on that.
I always agree on that. It's like I read them and I'm like, I never have an edit. So
Yeah. So,
well, we'll vote on that later.
okay, we'll table that till the next round. Public comments, any public comments? Public is, yeah, quiet for the time being. Next, communications. The town hall received a nice note from the Art for Justice and Peace group in Cornwall. A huge thank you for your leadership and hard work during the storm and power outages of the recent past. You and many others help us to feel safe and cared for no matter what is going on. We are grateful, sincerely. A group of nice people from Cornwall. So anyway, nice to have a little card from them. Any other communications? Addition to the agenda, I had two. One is P&Z vacancy. The other one is Allen's cemetery. So, is there any other additions?
Sorry, what was the last word you said?
Allen's cemetery.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't hear.
That's okay. All right, so all those in favor of adding those two, say aye. Our next is highway. First thing on the agenda is highway projects. The work continues on Cream Hill. The bridge over Ford Hill has been redone. It looks very nice. I went over today. It's been repaved and new guardrails put on it. And thanks again to Roger Kane for overseeing those two projects. They've begun to do work on the bridge over Mill Brook on Rattlesnake, but that should not impact traffic. There will be a traffic impact as contractors are raising a small section of Popple Swamp Road, which is often flooded in high waters if we get out of drought. As part of the Nash Pond reclamation project, and that should happen midweek, probably in September. So we're trying to nail down the date when that was happening. It was supposed to happen the day after the wind blew, so that didn't happen. So that's going to be a couple day closure of Popple Swamp Road around the Nash Pond area. And I think the biggest highway project to date is just cleaning up all the debris on the sides of the road. The crew's been out there. A couple of people were working extra hours on that. So we're moving around town, but there's plenty of brush. So, and this is something on highway project, we can segue right into tropical storm. As we said, there's plenty of brush. One thing that is a FEMA reimbursable expense is debris removal. And I'd estimate by the way we're hauling in there, even though we are chipping quite a bit of it, we're gonna have a big pile when we're done. And I'm working with Barbara Herbst to track our costs. We are having some overtime costs, some work on the big ones can be debris removal costs, but overall we're doing pretty well. Some some costs for emergency generators, and because they had to run for about a week, So anyway, so we are compiling figures for FEMA claim, fairly modest compared to some other places, but anyway, we'll be following up on that. We still continue to have the power back, but John's been working diligently on trying to get 1s and 2s restored to internet with Optimum and phone systems with Frontier. I believe we've had greater success with Frontier at this time. We still have quite a bit of phone lines that are down or sagging, or cable lines that are down or broken on the side of the roads. So we're trying to get those reinstalled. And today we actually did discover a tree across Lower River Road, far side of Trinity Conference Center, totally blocking the road and lines in it. So again, a little surprising that that wasn't discovered when the power was turned back on. But anyway, so John has submitted that to the power company, and hopefully we'll see some action on that soon, as people do use that road, even though it's a dead end. There has been quite a bit of talk in Hartford about the aftermath of the storm. I read today's Republican American that there is a bipartisan bill called Take Back the Grid that's coming out of the Energy Committee of the House in Hartford, and that will do a bunch of things to try to prevent this slow response from happening again. And there are provisions in there for some compensation for people for lost food, medications, expenses occurring 48 hours after the storm. Apparently New York State has some sort of provision like that. So they're going to look into doing something like that, which could be a pretty expensive item. But I was glad to see there is bipartisan support for improving performance here. As we said at our last meeting, we're concerned this may be an active hurricane season. So we want to make sure we get quicker showing by the power companies to make things safe. We did hustle at our last Zoom meeting. The Chronicle editors did suggest that we republish a storm preparedness insert. And so we did hustle yesterday to get something put together with Diane Beebe and John. We worked on getting something put together, and that should come out in September Chronicle. So again, that's going to be a 2-page flyer updating people on contact information and storm preparedness information, and how do they sign up to get emails from our office and the emergency management department in times of emergency. So we got that much done, and it's off the printers now. And again, thanks to the Chronicle people and Jonathan for quick typing that up. So that should be coming out soon. So again, we're following up on this, and there are still people without internet at this point. We're at the two-week anniversary of the storm, and to me, it's very frustrating for people to be out that long without any good explanation, other than there's not enough people to deal with all the damage. And as Michelle Obama said last night, it could be worse. So we have to have a more rigorous response to these emergencies. And again, we are working, trying to push as much as we can to make sure people get restored as promptly as possible. So any other thoughts on our tropical storm? Okay, on to the next, the ongoing emergency with COVID. Again, we're seeing some upticks in Connecticut. We're seeing some reasons to be optimistic, but again, the we need to be vigilant about that. I think a couple side projects we're working on is meeting tomorrow with the new principal on the reopening of school, student drop-off, bus drop-off and pickups at the school will have to be redone. There's going to be more people dropping their kids off. And again, she, the new principal, Mary Kay, has a plan that she used in her previous school on how to do this quickly. So we're going to go over that and see her if she needs any assistance. But again, we're going to put out the word that there may be some traffic congestion, at least on the Cornwall scale, around that part of Cream Hill Road when school opens and closes, so people can be aware that that would be a good thing. Another big COVID impact was the Board of Selectmen got 2 letters from the registrars and the town clerk reviewing the August primary that was held here last week. And they found with the social distancing, it really made it hard to have the voting in the town hall as we have since this building was built. So again, COVID makes us do things differently. So we are working with the school to probably have to move the voting up to the school. Another complication is you have to have same-day voting registration. So there are several different areas that have to be set up. And with the social distancing, they had people 6 feet apart going out the door for the primary. And if you think about early November, we have had snow on the ground in early November. It's just not tenable. And that primary probably had about a 25% turnout. I think we'll probably break 90% this time. So we'll realistically have 3-4 times as many people. And it's not a great plan to have people standing in line outside. The beauty of the school again is it's got a big space there in the gym. We can set something up so these people will be heated. And again, so we're going to go over how that might work with the distance learning process is ongoing at the school. It's not as much of a transition as it would have been 5 years ago to have the kids maybe do a distance learning day there on election day and maybe study the historic importance of that particular day because they're going to be, practicing that anyway. So anyway, so we're working with them and thanks again to the new principal who has got a lot on her plate and we're giving her as much support as we can. And she's reciprocating by making the school, again, is a town building, but making it available when we have to do things there that we can accommodate in other places. So again, it's great to have people working together, trying to get through these emergencies in a unified way. So again, we heard last time from Heather, there has been a bit of a run on the food pantry as a result of the storm. So we will be putting out a mailer to emphasize that, people, this week. And I think, again, the other thing, there's quite a bit of pressure on our election officials, not just for cybersecurity, but also there's concern about the Postal Service, as everybody's read. Hopefully we will still have a Postal Service. We will have a Postal Service at election time, and steps will be taken to make sure the absentee ballots will be moving as quickly as possible. But the responsibility for issuing the ballots had been transferred back to the town clerks. For this primary, that duties was given to a contractor who apparently underperformed. And so that duty has been given back to the town clerks. So again, there's going to be probably a need for some extra hours or some clerical work just to keep track of everything leading up to November vote. So anyway, interesting times. All these national issues are playing out right here and having an impact. So again, we're trying to manage those the best we can. And again, I think we've got a good team in place to try to get this all going. So that's my update on our emergencies. Any comments from the boards on all that things?
So so basically the school would need to be set up for people to register to vote there or at town hall?
Well, there's a name for it, which I've forgotten already, but there's like a same day registration.
Okay.
People should not put off registering to the last day, but there is some sort of procedures where people can do that. So there is another whole, there will be voter registration. People are registering to vote now. They can transfer their voter registration thing here. It's better to do it ahead of time.
Okay.
But there is some provision for same day registration, I believe.
Okay.
So anyway, so there's a bunch of side bars happening with the whole voting process.
Okay.
But they need space, and luckily, I believe the gym is not being actively used as part of the school instruction. And again, we got to work on cleaning the building, deep cleaning for the following day for school. So, a little different, but we're having to pivot these days. Anything else on our coronavirus? Farnsworth property, I did hear back from the Farnsworth. I did tell them that we the Board of Selectmen in our meeting last night, or not last week, sorry, did vote to offer the former firehouse property in West Cornwall to the Farnsworth, who own the adjacent bookstore, for $500, with the idea that this can be used for parking and facilitate a well or whatever they need, because it's so tight there. And certainly they need parking and they need a well and septic. So again, I talked to Andrew, I think today, and they're completing their environmental study of the property. And that will, once they get to that, they will accept our offer, and then we can take it forward to planning and zoning and eventually to a town meeting. I did talk to Attorney Grimes for the first time in almost 6 months. So anyway, and about how do we make a decision under COVID social distancing as a town. So he's going to look at the executive orders and what procedures are in place. So let us do that. We do have, as we said, the annual town meeting, which is not a major deal. We just review the past year and the audits of town financial records and adopt a 5-year plan. We do that in the end of October, and whether we could put the Farnsworth issue on that agenda. So again, my thought at this point is probably to do a town meeting, some sort of virtual town meeting for fairly minor things. But when we come down to West Cornwall septic, we would go with a full referendum, machine vote, absentee ballots available, that kind of thing. So I can't see having referendums for fairly minor things because they're expensive. And I have heard from people who feel like they don't really want to go to the old style town meeting inside with a bunch of people, even if they're socially distanced. So there is a question of what is the most accommodating way to vote in this new age that accommodates people's safety and also their right to participate. So again, my thought is if we do something like that, it's would be good to get that done. The September Chronicle is already out. We need so much of explanation of what we're doing. So again, an October date for a Farnsworth, West Cornwall town meeting seems like a good thing. And if we're already having one the end of the month, I think that would be appropriate at this time. So any other thoughts on voting procedures? Let's see. Okay, so next thing is West Cornwall sewer septic waste treatment. Again, our goal is to have some decision in 2020 about that. Again, it would be a townwide vote. It would also have to have some information go out to town residents and voters about the project. I think we want to put something perhaps in the Chronicle, just a fact sheet. We're not going to tell people how to vote. We are going to tell them what's involved with the project, what are the costs, what will this do, that kind of thing. So again, and my guess at this point is it would follow the national election. I think, again, with all the, say confusion is probably good as a word as any surrounding the vote that's going on and all the work that's being done by our voting people, is probably good to get that out of the way. And there are absentee ballots that will be available for that. The voting pool for a town referendum on the sewer septic thing would actually be a bigger voting pool, because it would not only have the registered voters able to vote, but also people that are taxpayers in town, even if they're not registered to vote here, are eligible to vote. So you'd have potentially a bigger voting pool anyway. And there would be a lot of absentee ballots available. So a lot of work has to go into that. And the main holdup at this point is to get the USDA numbers and find out exactly how we do that. My thought is we'd have some virtual online presentations, maybe even more than one, information sessions, and then again have a townwide vote with machine referendum, absentee ballots available.
Gordon, did we ever get a figure from the United States Department of Agriculture as to how much they would loan us or grant us?
I think that's what we're waiting for, Priscilla. That's our big percentage, and they're just going to give us a ballpark. Until the town votes, they're not really going to dig into it, but we're going to hear it's 20, 30, 40% or something.
Do we have a timeline for that, or we're just sort of waiting?
That is one of my next calls this week.
Got it.
To try to get that number out. I know they had some technical questions about the data that was presented to them. But I would hope we would hear within a month what that number is.
Okay.
So we have a number in September, we get, we start lining things up for a presentation. Then we have September, we have October to work on a presentation, and then, vote sometime, in November, early December, because everything's so virtual. It's not as weather dependent as it used to be, maybe. But again, I would like to get this done before it gets really cold, if possible, if everything falls into place. That would be my goal. I think our board's on board with that. Trying to get something set up, have a vote the latter part of this year. If we have all the relevant information. And the financing is fairly easy to figure out, the budgetary impact, the bonding impact. You may have read that I think Google went out to bond this today and got the lowest corporate bond rate, interest rate of any corporate bond ever. And it's interesting what they're doing. So anyway, So again, not a bad time to borrow. It dovetails a bit with the school bond being paid off in a couple of years. So let's see. Anything else on things in West Cornwall? I did want to mention, I did hear from the people that are looking to bring forward a restaurant, pizza group of at the Pink House property in the barn. They're still moving forward, and they just got their first, they jumped over the first hurdle as far as establishing a water supply. So they are working with the state, trying to get the water system set up and the approvals for that. So they are still moving forward on the whole project. So that's exciting.
That's great.
Can't wait for it.
Yeah,
Either.
a lot of hungry people out here. So again, let's see, CCS reopening is scheduled, I believe, the day after Labor Day, I think. And some increase in school enrollment, which is also a good thing. And so again, there'll be more publicity about that.
I sat in on the meeting last week that she did. I was just a lurker on the Zoom meeting. And at that time, the principal said it would reopen on the 8th at 8:15, but it would be a short day and close at 1. That's the Tuesday after Labor Day. And
Yeah.
I must say, I was very impressed. The meeting was about an hour and a half long, and she took questions from parents. It was done for parents, and she took questions. Annie Kosciuszko read in probably 50 questions that had come into the chat room, and she patiently answered each one. I was very impressed with her thoroughness and her straight talking. I liked it.
Yeah, I think she's going to be a great addition down there. And again, it's yeah, a lot of. I was very impressed. I actually sat through that presentation twice, but just the amount of work that has gone into that and tailoring this to our school. It's not a cookie cutter thing. We do have some advantages having a fairly good sized building, and again, a lot of thoughts being put into it, so it's done as safely as possible, and a lot of health considerations at play there. Again, thanks to all the people that worked over the summer with all the work groups to get that going in Region 1.
Yeah, agreed.
There is real concern that the country will lose a lot if our young people do not go, if they miss a year of school. That's going to be a big loss. So again, a lot of people are working hard to make sure this year is as productive as possible. Okay, anything else on the reopening? Oh, so we have something fun. We got a call, an email from Diane Alessi, who lives in Brooklyn, and she sent the town from Virginia 2 paintings. She's moving out of her space, so she had 2 paintings she thought we might be interested in. So she sent us pictures of them, and one is by Curtis Hanson, right there. So it's a winter scene, and Curtis Hanson was a wonderful artist that lived on Route 43, and he renovated Cornwall Hall into his gallery space, and he did some very nice paintings. So that would be a nice addition to our sort of folk art collection here of famous and non-famous Cornwall artists that we have here. So again, thanks very much to Diane for thinking of us. Her new name is Diane Shearer, and she lives in Keysville, Virginia, about to move. And then there is another painting which has a tag on the back, which Jonathan will read. And this is a painting of one of the buildings at the Cornwall Castle, and it is by Nick Dierishvetsky, who I don't know. And then on the back, the memo says.
Says artist Nick Darovetsky, he was a Russian caretaker and artist in residence living at the Pottery, former residence of Nick and Florence Rondinone.
Rondinone, yeah.
This is a oil painting of the silo, circa 1960, from Dr. Martin's castle.
That's so cool.
down the
Yeah.
road.
So there it is. So I thought the appropriate place for that would be the assessor's office, because every house assessor. So again, a neat thing. I'm sure I might invite the new owners of the castle. Unfortunately, that silo and that guest house, which was it was actually stables.
Oh, did that burn down?
Yeah, well, yeah, they burned except for the masonry still there, but we had a fire there, unfortunately, about 10 years ago. So that maybe we can get the new owners to rebuild it and increase our tax base a little bit. But again, it's great to have these collections of Cornwall art, and I think, without going too far off topic, I think art is really important nowadays, especially as we are in these perilous times. Art and music sort of pull people together. And it's great to have so much talent in these hills that occasionally comes our way for our enjoyment. So thanks again, and I'll try to get a hold of Curtis's family, just let him know we have one of his paintings, and it's going to be hanging here on town hall. So I think he would get a kick out of that. So anyway, thanks to Diane for thinking of us, and so I'll write her back some nice letter and thank her. Let's see, our additions. It's kind of funny, but I'll talk about the Green Mountain Power, the Green Mountain Boys, the Allens. Right before the storm, one of the budding property owners called us up, and Fred Scoville, the tree warden. There is a thing called the Allen Cemetery, which belongs to the town. It's the original settlers of Cornwall. A lot of them are buried there without any headstones because things were pretty tight in the early days. But it's pretty well documented that Ethan Allen's parents were buried there, as well as quite a few of his family. And it's known as the Allen Cemetery. And there was a monument put up about 100 years ago to Cornwall early settlers and pioneers there by the town. So I think it's a little overgrown, it's a little forlorn, and there was an old wire fence around it. So anyway, the neighbor said one of the trees was going to fall out from the cemetery onto his property. So the highway crew and the tree warden went up there to take care of that. Luckily, that's one tree that didn't come down during the storm. So anyway, so my thought is, without a whole lot of expense, we could sort of bring that back, and we don't want a huge amount of traffic up there, but it is sort of a neat little Cornwall facet. And the Allens story is a great Cornwall story. Ethan Allen and his brother Ira, who was actually born in Cornwall, are credited with founding the state of Vermont with the Green Mountain Boys. So again, the power company didn't quite believe that the Allens were buried here right up the road or whatever. But anyway, it's sort of a nice little historical landmark to have here, and I think we're going to spend some time, if the wind stops blowing, to try to dress that up this fall, get the trees trimmed, get the fence back up, and maybe even have a little virtual tour of the cemetery to honor the earliest of Cornwall residents who had it was pretty tough here. And then a lot of them, as soon as then they had the Revolutionary War, which went on for a long time. A lot of Cornwall soldiers. Over 200 people from Cornwall fought in the revolution. Some of them did not come back. Some of them spent time in New York Harbor on a prison ship in the British Navy, which must have been tough. A lot of them died in that ship. So again, there's a big story there. And in fact, some Cornwall boys founding a state up north, which is going strong, helped to found with their friends, a lot of them from Salisbury, Cornwall. This whole region had a lot to do with the founding of the state of Vermont, which is, again, going strong. And try to keep that connection and that history alive, because you never know when it comes in handy. So anyway, that's a little project.
Where is that?
All right, we're the Allen Cemetery. All right, in the old days, Town Street used to go straight through. It now ends in Roman 28. It used to go straight through down the hill and come out what's now known as Town Street South by the main Cornwall Cemetery. That's Town Street South.
Oh,
In the mid 1900s, that was discontinued by the Board of Selectmen, one of whom lived on the road and didn't like the traffic, I think. But anyway, that was then. So that went all the way through. There was a spur that went off there heading north towards Dibble Hill. And it's on that spur. So it's sort of, if you go at the end of Dibble Hill and go across 125, there's a little path you can see up there, and it's up on that hill, sort of below. It's in between David Herbert's and Ron Lagel's house. There's a little section the town owns in there, which is called the Allen Cemetery. And so we've been working on bringing that back. So again, a little hidden piece of Cornwall.
Sounds great.
If we get a little caught up, we'll work on it. Okay, so we did, speaking of Vermont, one of our P&Z members, Ben Gray Jr., was accepted to go to Vermont Law School, so he will be moving to Vermont to start that career. So there's a vacancy on the P&Z. The standard procedure is to move an alternate up to the full position. I know Phil West has been very active there and has been active in participation in the P&Z, so I would think he'd be the logically bound as office the longest, and I would think he would be a likely choice to move up. Jim Carroll and Tommy Euclidito are the other alternates. So again, we have to find another one. We did get a note from Christine Gray, who's Ben's brother, expressing interest. The only complication with that is the other two alternates are Democrats, and she is also a Democrat. So you can't have 3 Democrats as alternates on the board. I think that's the way it works. So again, we have to sort that out. So I'm not proposing we take any action, only that we notice that's something we probably should do, but I think Phil would be a good, logical person to fill that position, and we can keep this on as an agenda item and then cast the net if they're interested in that position or whatever. So I think Christine would be great. She's an architect, she's a young person. Just remodeled a house in town. She's got a lot of design skills, knows construction, all those good things. But anyway, let's just identify that as something we'll work on in the next month.
I think that's great. It's Ben Gray's sister, not brother.
What'd you say?
I said Ben Gray's sister, not brother. You said brother by accident. I just wanted to clarify.
That'd be me. Thank you for catching that one.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Gordon.
I misspeak from time to time. That's all good.
I know.
Okay. Anyway, is there any? Let's see. Then we have a tax refund request. We have a tax refund request. $104.38 for overpayment of real estate taxes, and $63 for overpayment of real estate taxes. And these are both approved by our tax collector. So I'd make a motion, we grant these two tax refunds back as they were overpayments. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so any other, all right, so now we're down to comments. Any comments from the public? Okay, any comments from the press? Keep us on.
Just wondered if I could get Diane's last name, that you said the lady who sent the two paintings.
Her last name is Diane Shear, Schrier. Her name was Diane Alessi when she lived in Cornwall.
Okay, and now the spelling of her last name again, S?
Scheirer.
EIRN?
I can email it to
Oh,
you.
great, thanks, Jonathan.
The whole deal. See if we can even give you your email if you want to follow up and make a little story.
Okay, that'd be great, thank you.
Find actually how she got it. She got a
Another
hold
question?
again. Good little story. Yeah.
How about, have you heard anything more about fiber optic coming to to Cornwall?
Well, last meeting we did fiber optic coming to West Cornwall. Well, the big is an optimum plan to bring that to Cornwall at some point, is what we've heard from their government relations people. That's in their plan before COVID sort of altered their plan. There is, I've heard some talk of a hotspot coming, a fiber hotspot coming to West Cornwall, but I haven't seen the details of that.
Great.
So, but apparently there's going to be some fiber upgrade of some type there, I think, proposed. Janet Carlson, the Economic Development Committee, has some sort of, she has some proposal she's working on with the Connecticut Education Network or Ed Advance or somebody that wires school. Again, it would be something to upgrade the service there. And again, we might look at that for the villages. Apparently it's not that expensive. So they did something like that down in Washington Depot. So anyway, so things are in the works.
Thank you.
Again, I think this whole last 2 weeks has shown the importance of communication, and as people get more and more reliant on the internet, losing it is, it's an employment issue, it's an education issue, it's a safety issue, it's a bunch of different things. So we'll be working, and I've been in touch with Gary Steinkold of the committee that's working on that. Okay, anything else? Okay, so that's it for tonight, I guess. Anyway, thank you all for attending, and we'll see you at our next regular meeting.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Yeah.
Good night.
Have a
good
good
night.
night.
Bye.
Stay well.
Bet. Wear the mask.